There was a saying, Phil, by a traitor. It was never meant to be.
Oh my god.
What if Wilbur Soot never blew up L'Manberg? Today we're going to analyze what direction the plot would have taken and how that would have affected the current plot arcs. Just a quick disclaimer, this is an alternate history of the Dream SMP, and it's all just what I think would have happened, but there's of course no way I could know what definitively would have happened, but it's always fun to theorize. I'll be talking a lot about current events on the SMP, so if you don't want any spoilers, this is your last chance to click off the video. By the way, I spent a lot of time on putting this video together, so if you happen to enjoy, consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind and unsubscribe later. Enjoy the video. If Wilbur Soot never blew up L'Manberg, the buildings would look way more shit. Wilbur's character arc was very much leading up to the destruction of L'Manberg, considering that was the conclusion of his story, and destroying his own nation upon realizing it could never be what he once formed it to be was central to the progression of the upcoming plots. Because of this, we'll be looking at two possibilities, since I genuinely don't know which path the SMP might have taken. The first possibility would be if Tubbo became president, while the second possibility would be if Wilbur became president. In both possibilities, everything would have happened the exact same up until past Jschlatt's death. Hey, so, sorry to interrupt, but I finished the majority of this video before the thing happened.
Don't speak to me of loyalty!
You were my friend and you be-
So any similarities to the canonical events that took place yesterday are purely accidental. After that brief interruption, though, let's look at the first possibility. In the first possibility, Wilbur would have gone through the same process of granting Tommy the presidency, before Tommy hands it back to Wilbur, and Wilbur hands it over to Tubbo. This time, out of a sense of guilt, because he had only just made the decision to not blow up L'Manberg, snapping out of his delusion of fantasizing the destruction of something he had worked so hard for. Wilbur would feel ashamed to have considered hurting his friends like this, and so he would leave for the uncharted wilderness to hide away with his guilt. His sacrifice was only mildly worth it though, considering Technoblade still held his same distaste for the government forming. And so he wreaked havoc on L'Manberg with his withers, leaving L'Manberg damaged, but not as much so as in the actual story. Meaning the reconstruction of L'Manberg would have occurred, but the change in design would have been significantly less noticeable. It's also conceivable to say that Technoblade would still leave to self-imposed exile, but it's likely Phil wouldn't have a plot reason to come to the SMP, but outside of lore would probably join during the reconstruction era instead of the destruction. With Wilbur not in L'Manberg, it's likely that everything would proceed normally out past Tommy's exile, at which point he's sent to Logstadshire. He would probably find Wilbur in his self-imposed exile and stay with him. Being exiled with an actual person and not a ghost would cause Tommy to not grow dependent on Dream, and would continue to fight back instead of giving in to his darker thoughts. Wilbur would be left disgusted at Tubbo's decision to exile Tommy, and would leave to discuss letting Tommy back into L'Manberg with Tubbo. Tubbo would then tell Wilbur that for political reasons, and to keep peace with the Dream SMP, he'd have to keep Tommy exiled. Wilbur would leave L'Manberg extremely upset with Tubbo's decision, returning to Tommy claiming that Tubbo is acting like Jschlatt, and they have to plan a new siege on L'Manberg to talk some sense into him. Tommy isn't a fan of this plan, not wanting to betray Tubbo, but at this point Wilbur's located Technoblade and gotten him on board. Something Tommy is left shocked by, claiming that Techno will just do the same thing he did before with even more withers. Something which Techno demonstrates with his new secret room full of wither heads.
Welcome home, Thesis!
The truth is, Wilbur is really just doing this not for Tommy, but as a redo in his mind for missing his opportunity to blow up L'Manberg. Thinking Tommy's banishment only accentuates how L'Manberg can never be the nation he once wished it was. As a result of this, despite Tommy's opposition, Wilbur and Techno continue with their plans to attack L'Manberg. Tommy knows what Techno and Wilbur will do if their attack is successful, but considering many more are on Tubbo's side, the chances of success are minimal. Tommy breaks his exile to go to see Tubbo and warn him of what's about to happen. Tubbo sees this as a much larger threat than Dream if he were to let Tommy help in this fight, and so he grants Tommy permission to help defend L'Manberg. After this point, a battle breaks out between L'Manberg versus Wilbur and Techno, at the peak of which Wilbur attempts to press the button to blow up L'Manberg while being chased by Tommy. When he goes in to press it, he discovers Tubbo had it disconnected. It's at this point that Dream shows up at the fight, at Tubbo's request to imprison Techno and Wilbur in the prison built by Sam. And when discovering Tommy had left exile at Tubbo's request, Dream demanded that all three be imprisoned or else he would lay waste to L'Manberg. Tubbo agrees to this deal out of fear of Dream. What happens after this point is up to interpretation, and likely would kickstart new arcs, so I'll be stopping this possibility here for time's sake. However, let's cover the second possibility. In the second possibility, everything would go the same up until Tommy hands the presidency over to Wilbur, at which point Wilbur would end up accepting the presidency instead of leaving for self-imposed exile or to blow it all up. Same as the first possibility, Techno spawns his withers to attack L'Manberg. Wilbur sees this as what he could have become by blowing up L'Manberg and fears how close he was to doing so, snapping him back to reality. The same events occur as in the canon timeline, with Wilbur being president opposed to Tubbo. The first main difference comes in when Dream insists on Tommy's exile for the destruction of George's house. Unlike Tubbo, Wilbur would believe they dealt with Dream once, and they could do it again. Wilbur declines Dream even the consideration of banishing Tommy, and so L'Manberg is surrounded in obsidian walls. Something Wilbur isn't too opposed to, considering Jschlatt took down the original walls. Shortly after, Dream declares war on L'Manberg, and so the cabinet prepares for war. There's a short dispute over whether getting Technoblade involved to fight against Dream is worthy collateral, but Wilbur ends up ruling against it. Dream has the same conundrum as the cabinet on his hands, but decides to ask Technoblade to help in the attack on L'Manberg, to which he agrees. When the time comes, a battle breaks out between the Dream SMP and L'Manberg, at the end of which, Techno ends up summoning multiple withers. When it seems that the withers, Dream, and Technoblade are subdued, Dream takes out Tommy's discs and threatens to burn them if he and Technoblade aren't allowed safe exit from L'Manberg. Wilbur solemnly agrees after urging from Tommy. Wilbur questions Tommy on why the discs are so important to him and why he's risking his nation for them. This causes an argument to break out between the two, and Wilbur requests that Tommy choose L'Manberg or his discs, at which point Tommy chooses his discs. As a result, Wilbur strips his role on the cabinet to not get L'Manberg into another battle after the withers left it extremely damaged. Shortly after, when the Butcher army leave to attempt executing Techno, Tommy begs to go with and use Techno as leverage for his discs. Wilbur forbids him from dragging one of L'Manberg's most wanted into his squabble with Dream, and so Tommy follows the Butchers against Wilbur's orders with invisibility potions so that they don't know that he's there. When the execution fails, just like in the canon timeline, Tommy takes Techno hostage and demands his discs back from Dream. Dream says that Techno means nothing to him and to just kill him. Tommy sees through Dream's bluff, and so he takes Techno back to L'Manberg, stating if he hands Techno over, L'Manberg needs to engage in the disc war. Wilbur once again refuses Tommy's offer, and Tommy lets Techno go, meaning Techno is now in his debt. After some time, Tommy calls in his favor with Technoblade, and asks that he help get his discs back from Dream. When Techno goes to get the discs, Dream calls in his favor and asks Techno to burn Tommy's discs in front of him before luring Tommy into the prison Sam had built. When Techno burns Tommy's discs in front of him by the prison, Tommy tried to kill him. When Techno lured him inside the prison, Dream ended up imprisoning both of them in separate cells. Once again, just like the last possibility, after this point, several other plot arcs would kick off, and so I'll have to cut it off here for time's sake. But in conclusion, I hope you all enjoyed the video. This was a really fun video to produce, and hey, don't click off the video yet, I'm not done. Jeez, thank you. I hope you enjoyed, or something, but I gotta get my clout. I'm going to be streaming a lot on my Twitch channel in the future, which should be linked in the description down below, and I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a follow there. Do it. Do it. Do it. I know you want to. Do it or else. Hurry, before it's too late. Do it. You're running out of time. Click on the link. It's the second line in the description. Do it. You can still hear me, and that means you haven't done it. Click on the Twitch link. You want to do it. Click on the damn link before you can't anymore. It's twitch.tv/ski.